So I think that it's time to start, and I don't want to be late. First of all, welcome to all of you. Thanks for being here, and I hope you will find this seminar useful, and you will enjoy it and find it useful for your professional career. I'm going to introduce briefly my colleagues. They will introduce themselves to you as well, and I will just give you some briefing about the daily program. So my colleagues are Celia Pappas, she's an Eures advisor in Glasgow, and the other colleague is Sam Stamenkovic, who is an Eures advisor in Portsmouth. So they both belong to the English Eures network. Myself, I am Bernadette Greco, and I work as a Eures advisor for the Italian network, and I am Eures advisor here within the province of Lecce. I've been working as a Eures advisor for 4 years, and before I've been working on various mobility programs funded with European funds. So just a few words on the project, and let me tell you how from an idea we came to this seminar to an action plan. Working together with the English colleagues, we found out that there were many vacancies in a specific sector, which is the only one still registering a high number of vacancies for the highly skilled professionals. And we found out from our database in the past, and from working together as well with the ordini professionali, with the engineers boards of Lecce, Brindisi and Taranto, that there were many engineers who couldn't find a satisfying job here in Salento and Lecce. Thanks as well to the collaboration with the University of Salento, we started to work on this specific issue, these specific vacancies, and asked the colleagues to come here to explain how the engineering sector works in the UK and all the vacancies you could find there. The program is the following. Sam will just explain to you how living and working in the United Kingdom, giving you all the information you could need, and then Celia Pappas will be more specific and will give you explanation, information on how to write in the correct way, in a proper way, a curriculum vitae, a cover letter, how to search for an engineering company, and all the things that you should know before applying for a specific graduate programs, for engineering program. And in the afternoon, as you know, from 2 to 4 o'clock, there will be these interviews, you have already been informed of this. You have been split according to geographical order and so on. So now I will leave the floor to my colleagues Sam Stamenkovic, Eures advisor in Portsmouth.
Right, good morning to everyone. Good morning. That's better, thank you very much. As Bernadette says, my name is Sam, and I live in a place called Portsmouth. That is how we pronounce. Portsmouth is for tourists, but we actually say Portsmouth. So we just had our projector moved a little bit, so I hope somebody will sort out that, because it's excellent, right. So the presentation should last about 20 minutes, and if you have any questions, please do ask after the presentation. So when we say United Kingdom, what do we think of? Any idea? Let's see the first picture there. Big Ben, let's go a little bit astray. It was a bit wobbly today. Right, so that's Big Ben. The next picture will be, any idea? Is that's a Scotch Guard. What they do, they protect who? The Queen, exactly. So London, any idea what is here, that picture is? Tower Bridge, good. And that is? What are their names? William and Kate. William and Kate, very good. Okay. Apart from London, there are other places. Edinburgh is the capital of? Who says first? Here you are, sir. You deserve a little prize. Sorry. That might be your first transport in Britain. Belfast is the capital of? Ireland. No. Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland. Yes, sir. I've got a little bus for you. More precise this. We have Cardiff. Cardiff is the capital of? Wales. Wales. That's the lady there. She wrote one. Here, love, catch. And Portsmouth. This is the place where I live. And we have the best historic ships in the world. This one is command ship of famous admiral called? What was the famous English admiral? Nelson. Who said Nelson? I've still got a bus to give you. Here you are. Sorry, I'll kill the cameraman there. Right, so if you come to Portsmouth, you will be able to see some other historic ships. And it's also a coastal city like Lecce, but the sea is not so warm as here. So let's go and see something else. What we're going to talk today will be first about the United Kingdom a little bit. There are different meaning of United Kingdom and Great Britain. Can anybody tell me what is the difference between United Kingdom and Great Britain?
United Kingdom includes also Northern Ireland.
That's correct. Brilliant. I've got one bus for you, so you can come and pick it up later on. So you're a bit far away to throw it. So that part on the right-hand side, that's England, Scotland and Wales. And Ireland here is divided to Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. Population 62 million people. The currency is British pound. And we have two official languages, English and Welsh. I can't speak any Welsh. And Celia, do you know anything? I know Yahida, which means saluting. That's about it. It's a very, very difficult language. So there's a major cities that you can see in England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland. And how many of you have been to United Kingdom? So quite a few, okay, so you know that the climate is not as kind to us as it's here. Let's go to the next slide. So we said we're going to talk about the labour market information and the working conditions, while Celia will be talking how to apply for jobs. So let's see. The current state of unemployment in the UK is 7.9%. Any idea what will be unemployment rate in Puglia? 12. Okay, somebody says more, but under 25, so for young people, a big problem everywhere. Over 1 million young British people are out of work. And our economy is sort of stable. It's not really growing, although we have unemployment stable, but employment is actually going up. But the quality of jobs is not what was before. Lots of people are doing part-time work. Some of them have to do 2 jobs. So the competition for jobs is very, very fierce. In order to get a good job in the United Kingdom, you must speak perfect English, especially if you're going to be an engineer. The level of English is on the top. So if you're not able to understand what I'm talking to you, then I'm afraid you probably will not be able to find a job as an engineer. So please remember, no English, no good job. We are expecting some more redundancies in the public sector. The government is cutting the costs, so like in every country of the European economic area, there will be less jobs for teachers, for government officials, but otherwise we do have quite a few vacancies for engineers, especially in Scotland, and Celia will be telling you about that a little bit later. Now, apart from being an engineer, you may try your luck in these occupations here. This is where we also have shortages. Social workers especially. If you maybe have a partner who is a social worker without a job, or even a skilled chef, some nurses, dentists, doctors, always needed. Now, the national minimum wage in the United Kingdom is £6.19 per hour. This is brutto. The average wage in the United Kingdom is £24,000 a year. Again, this is brutto, before tax. We'll talk about taxes a little bit later. 48 hours is your working time. You should be working more than 48 hours a week. And you should sign your contract with the employer within 6 weeks of start working. There are two types of contracts. One is verbal and the other one is written contract. Mainly the jobs for engineers are permanent positions. National insurance number is your social security number, and this is the first step when you get to United Kingdom. You will have to get your national insurance number. All the contributions for your pension and for your health care will be going to that number, and that stays with you for life. This is very important, because one day, if you go to UK and work 5 years in the UK, then maybe you go to Switzerland, you work 3 years in Switzerland, come back and work 30 years in Italy, and you're going to suddenly retire like everybody else. Your pension will be coming from different sources. And that's why it is absolutely essential that you know what will be your national insurance number in the UK. This is how European law stands at the minute. What is going to happen in 10 or 15 years' time regarding pensions, we don't know. If you're self-employed, then you will pay your own taxes. Let's see about the other things that you will have to pay to the state, and that would be income tax. Basic rate of tax is 20%. What would be in Italy? What is the income tax? How many percent? 24. 50%. Oh well, that's quite a lot. These figures here are figures for your yearly salary. So if you're earning up to £34,370 a year, you will be paying 20% tax. If you're earning from that figure up to £150,000, that amount of money will be taxed by 40%. However, if you're lucky enough to earn over £150,000, you will be paying 50% tax. I know this may be very complex for you. The best way to work out will be, if you are earning, let's say, £25,000 a year, brutto, before tax, you will be taking home about 2/3 of that. Let's go to the next slide, and this will be about living in the UK, such as healthcare, accommodation, and the general cost of living. What would be really the best thing about living in the UK? Is it the weather? And I'll show you a few pictures. One of them will be, this is London in July, and the next one will be Portsmouth in August. So if you like rain, please do come. Yeah, lots of rain in the UK. I did mention a little bit contributions towards your healthcare, another very important thing for you. Have you seen this card before? This is called European Health Insurance Card. This is what you need when you go anywhere within European Economic Area. So you will have a free emergency medical treatment in any country. When you come to the UK, you will also need to have this before you get there and before you register with a doctor. This is what you will need to get from your health care organization. So your National Health Service here should provide you with European Health Insurance Card. Otherwise the doctors are free, the dentists you will have to pay for National Health Service dentists.
Really?
And also prescriptions are not free. In England, Wales and Scotland are a little bit more generous towards people who live there. You don't pay for prescriptions if you live in Scotland. Now, let's talk about something which is extremely important for you, and this is the place that you're going to live. Now, the picture here, for those who have never been to the United Kingdom, is the typical street in most British towns and cities. These houses are called the terraced houses. Most of them were built during the golden era of Victorian rule at the end of 19th and the beginning of the 20th centuries. I live in one of them. And down up here you will see the cost of a monthly rental. These are not London prices. London is at least 30% more expensive. Apart from this, you will have to pay a deposit. You have to pay something which is called the council tax, TV, gas, electricity, internet, water, sewage. So all these things build up quite a lot. People ask me, how much should I take with me to start with life in the UK? I would say without 1,500 euros, just don't go. If you have any relatives or friends in the UK, I would suggest you try to re-establish connection, because the biggest part of your outgoings will be your accommodation. So if you can stay with your friends and relatives, and I know there are many people of Italian origins living in the UK, that would be my advice as well. Now, these are some of the prices that I have put before. Pound have plummeted again. The exchange rate was 1.24 for a pound. And you can compare prices in sterling and in euros. Are the prices about the same? Or is it more expensive there? It's more expensive. Or it's about the same. There is a less difference between the prices in countries of European Economic Area. Celia and I, we travel a lot, all over, and we do these talks in other countries as well. And even in countries where the income is a lot lower than in Italy, the prices are about the same. People always say that cigarettes are very expensive in the UK. And some of our people who work in countries where cigarettes are cheap are trying to bring lots of them and sell in the black market. And I would certainly discourage you of doing that, because that's illegal. The government doesn't like to lose money on any taxes. And now our last slide will go something which is British food. Wow. There is a lot of influence of various cuisines to British food. You're certainly not going to be homesick in the UK, because there are lots of Italian restaurants there. Has anybody got any idea what's the most popular dish in the UK? What do people eat? Well, let's see. Fish and chips. We have roast beef. No, it's not. Next picture is fish and chip. It's not. There is one more. But before we discover what is the actual most popular food, and I've got another little bus to give you.
Apple pie.
No.
Salmon porridge.
No. Who says Indian food? Yes, sir, you're right. It's curry. Curry is the most popular dish. You deserve a bus. Please come and get your bus after the presentation. Curry is the most popular dish, and if you're really into curries and you go to Birmingham, that's the best place. There are lots of people from Asia. They brought with them and their religion and their way of life, and obviously their food. Now, we're coming slowly towards the end of the brief presentation about living and working, and now I'm going to invite you to ask me a question regarding this. If you have any questions about how to apply for jobs, that will be Celia in a moment giving information and presentation about that. Any questions? We were yesterday in Bari, there were lots of questions. Yes, sir. At the back, I can see somebody raise their hand.
I am blind since I was born, so I wonder what are rights for blind people in UK?
We have the 2010 is called Discrimination Act, where companies are not discriminated against anybody, people with disabilities, people of different religion, different skin color, and companies will have some funds and obligation to accommodate people with disabilities, provided with a special, I don't know, IT equipment, depending what type of job you will be doing, providing with special lifts if the position where you will be working is on, I don't know, first or second floor. So people with disabilities are very welcome. Some of the companies that employ more than 50 people are actually obliged to have a certain percentage of people with disabilities as their workforce. Has that given you an answer?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody has any more questions? Yes, lady with glasses.
Thank you. Are there any seasonal jobs during the summer, for example, without thinking about degrees, like engineers or so on? Are there any opportunities during the summer, like a seasonal job, in order to make an experience there and see how you will profit from that? What kind of?
We have 440,000 unfilled vacancies in the UK. Loads of them will be part-time or seasonal work, especially in the tourist industry. What I would ask you is, if you come and see me later on, and I'm going to give you a little slip of paper and tell you what you need to do in order for me to send you the adequate literature regarding seasonal work. But as I said, we have many vacancies which are unfilled. Also, seasonal vacancies are quite popular amongst people with lesser qualification, so you will be in there for a competition.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
I'm Giovanni. Good morning.
Hello, Giovanni.
What can you tell to the people who want to go in Britain to get a job without Eures, to go in England and get a job in the place?
Well, getting a job, again, I repeat, without a qualification is very difficult because you will be there in a competition with other people. I'm not saying it's impossible, but we've got in European Economic Area 31 countries, and believe me, wherever we go, we have even more people who come to our sessions because they would like to come and work in the UK. Again, it is possible. Probably you're more likely to find work in large cities. If you want to look for the work in a hotel or the restaurant, you can simply go from one to another. But it's not an easy task. What you need to do is also to prepare yourself for that. First of all, you need to have a perfect CV. And Celia will tell you later on how to make a perfect CV. That's number one thing what you need to do. Anybody else has got any questions? No, again, we will be remaining here for a little while, and oh yeah, there's a gentleman. Did you want to ask another question? Yeah, go on.
So, you say that people with disabilities have no particular difficulties. So, I wonder what are the main problems that I should solve before being blind. Let's see that I decide to come to London to apply for a job. Being blind, what are the main problems that I will face, and what are the particular services that public or private will offer to me to let me live in London without problems?
You will be there in a competition with other people. Being somebody with a disability, it doesn't give you any advantage over able-bodied people to apply for a job, but at the same time you will not be disadvantaged. Again, it is the type of job that you're qualified to do, and obviously you know yourself what type of job you can do with your health condition. It's hard to say, really, but you just have to keep on applying. I would not really put in your CV your disability. In theory, I said in theory, everybody should be equal. And Celia will tell you later on, when we do the CVs, why we don't want you to put a picture in a CV. Our CVs are completely different, but again, you know, we will be talking about that just a little later on. Again, it depends. There will be some help. We have something which is called disability living allowance, which is the amount of money that you get from the government to help you living with a disability. And as a blind person, you will be qualifying for that. And the amount of disability allowance depends on the severity of one's disability. But even working people will get. In the Job Centre Plus, where we work, in public employment services, we do have a large number of people with disability, including people who are blind, and they're perfectly able, with a certain software that they have, to do their jobs. So you will not be the exception. Yes, sir.
My name is Sandro. Here in Italy, if we found a job, we have much more opportunities searching it in the industrial district, like Milan, Naples, Bologna, Turin, and so on. In England, in the United Kingdom, which are the main industrial districts, or how the economic is distributed on the land of the United Kingdom?
Right, so the question was where would be actually the most developed area of the United Kingdom. We always say the southeast, which is the area from London down south, in theory is the most developed. However, Scotland, where Celia comes from, is coming out as, well, let's say the tiger of the UK. And believe it or not, they are now developing strongly the area where you measure your expertise as engineers. There's a large number of engineers wanted in Scotland. The unemployment actually is lower in Scotland than in the other parts of the United Kingdom. So I don't know if this has given. So London down south and Scotland are probably for you the best places to search for a job as an engineer, if that's the job that you would really like to do.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything, any more? if you haven't got any more questions, I will pass on microphone to Bernadette, who is now going to introduce Celia.
Okay, so now let's leave the floor to Celia Pappas, and she's going to give you all the important information about the job search, job application, how to draft in the correct, proper way a CV, and the checklist you should have clear in your minds before applying and having an interview. Okay.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I'm just going to, explain a little bit, following on from what Sam said. You will hear the different accent, Scottish, and I don't know if you know, but we're part of the United Kingdom, but we do have a devolved government, and I work quite closely with the Scottish Government to help recruit engineers to parts of Scotland. The engineers that we look for mainly are in the oil and gas industry, and you'll know that we have North Sea oil off the coast of Aberdeen, which is the northeast of Scotland. So I have a bit of experience with recruitment projects for engineers. I've been a Eures advisor for 9 years, and as Sam said, we've done a few trips and been involved in many different projects. Today, my role is to talk about applying for jobs in the United Kingdom. It's how to have your application, your CV, etc., in a format that is acceptable for UK employers. So I don't mean to offend anyone, but I am talking only about the UK market. And every market is different. Your CV for Italy will be quite different, I think, from the CV from the United Kingdom. So, I hope to speak for about 20-25 minutes. I'm happy to take questions after the presentation, and we're going to look about the topics we're going to talk about are job search, CVs for the UK market, your cover letters and online applications. Okay, I don't need to read out the list. You can all see where you can apply for jobs. And this does not just include the UK, but of course the UK newspapers is very much for UK jobs. Generally speaking, about 1/3 of all unfilled vacancies will be advertised in the Public Employment Service. Public Employment Service in Britain is Job Centre Plus, and in Northern Ireland it is the Department for Employment and Learning. Another 1/3 of the vacancies will be advertised through private and specialist agencies, and the other 1/3 will be through national and local newspapers. So on the list of handouts that you have on your chair, you will find the website for UK newspapers online. So you're not at a disadvantage because you're in Italy. You can look at the newspapers here. Approximately 85% of recruitment is done online, and this is the future. There's no more sending emails by post. It's going to be uploading your CV to a company website mainly. And because 85% of recruitment is done online, it is very important that your curriculum vitae, your CV, is in a format that UK employers are used to, that they will accept. If you want to use a private recruitment agency, please note that they do not charge any fee. It is illegal for an agency to charge you a fee to find you a job. They are paid by the employer, who pays them a fee for finding the right person for the right job. So, what is the job application process? Well, we have the CV, we have the covering letter, which never should be handwritten, we have company application forms, and we have the online applications. And I'm going to speak about each one in turn. The first sentence says everything. Please note, if you're applying for a job as an engineer or anything that's highly skilled, your CV is the first step. It is not the passport to get a job. You will not be offered a job simply by having a good CV. What you're doing with your CV is you're catching the employer's attention. You're going to make the employer look a second. So if you are offered a job after submitting your CV, there's a strong possibility that it's not a true job offer. There are some criminal activities in the United Kingdom where criminals have taken real company details, they've gone onto the internet, they have fake letters, and they ask for your passport details, they ask for your bank details, and they ask for money for a work permit. As Italian citizens, you do not need a work permit. You do not need a work permit to come in the UK. Please do not send passport details, bank details to anyone. That should not happen, okay? Just to warn, because they're happening more and more, and they're becoming more and more specialised. They're using mobile numbers with the UK, 044, but the number is not in the UK, and it's normally in Nigeria, Uganda, nowhere near. So it's just a kind of warning to people not to be taken in by this. Okay, so we're talking about online applications is the biggest way of applying, and for that reason you need to keep to the simple CV principles. Keep to 3 basic rules: format and presentation, the content, and the order of your CV. And this is very important. Don't try and use huge sentences. The British people like things short and sweet. We don't need to use big sentences, but we do need to have a meaning in the sentences. You can have sentences like, I believe I have all the knowledge, skills and experience needed to contribute to your team. That means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. So keep your sentences short, but have them with meaning. Have plenty of spacing, don't have everything too crammed in. Try and use font size 12, that's the most acceptable font size, and no more than 2 pages. Yesterday we were in Barry and we were at the university, and there was a lot of undergraduates, and I had said don't use a photograph because we have very strong discrimination laws in the United Kingdom. You should be judged on your abilities, your qualities, your experience, your education, not on how you look. That had nothing to do with it. And one of the first CVs we got, page 1 had 2 pictures. Beautiful girl, beautiful girl. However, there was very little content to her CV, but she's a very pretty girl, she had 2 big pictures on the front page. Perfect body, yeah. Sorry, right, Sam, forget it. She was trying to take up space on the CV by using 2 pictures. It does not go down well in the United Kingdom, okay? And the bad news is, the Europass CV is not is not accepted in a good way in the United Kingdom. UK employers don't like it. They don't like it, it's too bulky, it doesn't flow very well. So if possible, when you're applying to the UK market, do not use the Europass CV, okay? Your CV should be built on quality, not quantity. And the content of your CV is the most important part. It's very, very important that you have a good content, because that is what's going to attract the employer to you. You need to research every job that you're applying for. So what I'm saying is you can't have the same CV for each job. You should be looking at the job description, look at the keywords that are used and try and include them in your CV. As well as saying what your responsibilities were, we need to know what your achievements. So don't just list I was responsible for. Try and elaborate more and say how you performed the job. What did you achieve in the job? You know what buzzwords are? Buzzwords are words that the employers like. So there we have teamwork, drive, but you also can find words like improved, exceeded, boosted. And I'm going to give you a little hint on your handout sheets. This doesn't want me, this. This page here, it mentions prospects. It's a university website, and it is very, very helpful. As well as finding the buzzwords, keywords, you can also find templates for your CVs, how to write a CV, how to write a cover letter, example of online applications. I've done a lot of research with the Prospects website. So it's on this sheet here, okay? And what you're trying to do with your CV, with your content, is to show the employers that you have this something extra, because the employer's saying, well, why should I choose you? So you have to show them why. There are normally 6 sections to a CV. Sometimes there can be 7, but I'm going to go with this format, 6 sections. So this is the order they normally follow, unless you have just finished university and you do not have any work experience. If you have no work experience, then your education would come before the experience. If you have work experience, that is very important. And the other thing worth noting is UK employers put a lot of value on work experience. They recognise that it's a valuable asset. Your personal information should be your name and your contact information. We don't care if you're married. We don't care if you have children, so don't put that on your CV. Don't put your age. Don't say I'm 21 or 22 or whatever. You don't need to say how old you are. If you do want to state how old you are, then please put it in the format of your date of birth. So the 8th of June 1966, for example. But you don't need to. You don't need to say whether you're male or female. Again, that is irrelevant. It should be irrelevant to the employer. Your personal statement shouldn't be any more than 3 or 4 sentences. And it should be why you stand out from the crowd. Why should the employer hire you? Yesterday I was looking through some CVs, and in some personal statements they wanted to come to the United Kingdom to improve their English. We don't care. That employer doesn't care. So that's not a reason for applying for a job. They really like the life in the United Kingdom. Who cares? That's not a reason, again, for applying for the job. You should be very focused on the job that you're applying for. If you're putting down work experience, it should be in chronological order with the last or the latest job first. And don't just put down the job, put down the period that you were working, so from and to, and the employer's name and address. You can get that in one line. When you're mentioning your education, if you have a university degree, then you don't need to mention high school, because normally everything's kind of wiped out the higher your level of education becomes. It's not necessary. But if you have a really good mark from your university degree, then it's worth mentioning that. Your key skills and achievements, this can include language skills, IT knowledge, and if appropriate to the job you're applying for, any other training or personal achievements. Now, personal achievements that you had when you were 7 or 8 or 9 no longer apply when you're 20, 30, 40 or 50. So try and have something that's up to date and something that would mean something to the employer or about the job you're applying for. If you have enough room on the 2 pages of your CV, then you can add the names and contact details of 2 referees. If you do not have enough space, then it's perfectly acceptable to write references available on request. If you have either said references available on request, or you have given the names and contact details of people, please make sure that they know that you have given them as references, because the employer more than likely will contact them. One last thing about the CV when I'm thinking about this. Remember, your CV is a living document. You don't do your CV and say, that was a hard job, I've done it, I've finished. No. Your CV lives with you. So you should be updating it. When you find a job, you update your CV. When you leave that job, go to another job, you update your CV. And also, depending on which job you're applying for, you can change your CV. You can keep the same format, but you can change content and highlight some areas rather than others, depending on the job. It's always a case of looking at the job description, looking at it very, very carefully, and then building your CV around that job description. There's a lot of competition. Yes, we do need engineers, but I'll speak for Scotland because that's where I work. Although I'm representing the UK, I work a lot with Scottish employers. They're going out to Europe, they're going to Spain, they're going to Portugal, they're going to Greece, they're going outside of Europe as well. They always want to get the best of the best. So your CV has to be as good as you can possibly make it. This is a big competition, and that's the way you always have to approach going for a job. You have to prove yourself. If you are doing a cover letter, as mentioned before, it must always be typed. If you were to submit a cover letter in handwritten, it would be straight into the bin. They would not even take time to look at it. What you have to remember is employers are getting hundreds, if not thousands, of applications. So you need to make your point very quickly and in a way that they accept. Only one page, and try not to have a full page, try to have a few paragraphs, not a full page of all about you. But the cover letter is a little bit more personal. You can give a little bit more than you can in your CV, which is a more formal document. What you want to do is to let the employer know within the first few lines who you are and why you're writing to them. You need to be honest about why you want the job and talk about what attracts you to the job. Never mention that money is what is attracting you. Although there are some engineering jobs, the money is fabulous. I wish I was an engineer. And obviously we all want a job where we're going to get a good level of salary. But the employer will be impressed if you can show that you have researched his company and you're going to bring out parts of that in your cover letter. Think about why should you be offered the job. If you can think about 3 or 4 qualities that you have which match the needs of the job, then that's what you put in your cover letter. Don't tell lies, because if you tell lies, you will be found out. Try not to exaggerate. You know, like if you fish, if you go for fishing and your husband comes home or whatever and you say, did you catch a fish? Yeah. What size? That size. When really, it's that size. So we don't like to exaggerate. You don't want to be too humble, but you want to be honest, because you will be put to the test. So coming from Italy, coming to the UK, the last point is very important. State when you are available to travel, for interview, to start work. Because employers know, especially with engineering jobs, yes, some engineers will be coming from a state of unemployment, but other engineers will be coming from one company to join another. I think that's the way the world goes round. So you might have to give a month's notice, you might have to tie up family business in Italy. So as long as you're honest, then that does not present a problem. With the application process and starting work as an engineer, it does not happen in 1 day or 2 days. It's quite a slow process. You would normally send your CV or application. The next stage is normally a telephone call, and then the next stage is an interview. Some of the employers we're working with at the moment, if they were to have enough good candidates from Italy, from Bari, from Lecce, then they will arrange to come here and do the interviews. Such is the need. Or some good companies actually, if they want you, they will pay your transport to go over for the interview. Just lastly on the covering letter, a lot of people in England and the UK don't know this. If you're addressing the letter to dear sir or madam, so for example, if you do not know the person that you're sending the letter to, you always finish with yours faithfully. If you are sending it to someone that you know the name, for example, dear Mrs. Pappas, then you would finish with yours sincerely. And these little touches, it just makes, it's a little bit extra. When you are completing your cover letter, your application, your CV, please be very careful with your grammar and with spelling. And we do not like the American spelling. So check when you're using spell check, which I use, then it's spell check UK, because US spelling, we don't like it. Remember, English originated in England and the Americans copied us, so it's not as good. Okay, lastly we're going to look at online applications. And many of the applications nowadays, especially by big companies, they are sifted electronically. So it's not people that are looking at them, it's machines. And this is why it's very important, what I said in the beginning, you don't have diagrams, you don't have boxes, you don't use the Unipass, you don't have photographs, because your CV could be rejected at that stage. And it's not because you don't have the abilities or the qualities for the job, it's because your CV does not stand up to the UK standard. So, that's why it's very important to stick to the basic rules. Nothing I have said about the CV is complicated. In fact, keep it as simple as you possibly can and you will have more chance of success. If it's an application form, then take your time, make sure you read the instructions very, very carefully. If possible, take a draft copy, practice with the completion. I thought more people wanted to come in, that's okay. And make sure that you fully understand all the questions. You need to answer every question and don't leave any blank spaces. Again, if you leave one blank space, your whole application could be rejected. So it's important that you take the time before you start to complete the form to make sure you understand what the employer is looking for. Some companies are also using the psychometric testing. Do you know psychometric testing? Do you know what this is? No? I don't have any buses, so I'll answer. I can't give you any prizes. You got some? They didn't know anyway. Psychometric testing is the field of study concerned with the theory and technique of psychological measurement. So they would measure your knowledge, your abilities, attitudes, personality, and your educational measurement. A lot of the psychometric testing you can practice again on the prospects website. If this is something new, you can actually practice. But a lot of the questions seem to be very, very similar. Sometimes there is no right answer or wrong answer, but they're looking for the consistency. You know, that you're not trying to complete the form to make someone else happy, but you're completing the form as you actually are. And they can see if then you'll fit into the team and how, you know, how things will work in that way. That's me finished for that. I'm not going to speak about interviews because we don't have enough time today. But again, on the Prospects website, you can also get help, tips for interviews. Interviews in the United Kingdom tend to be quite formal. We are quite a formal race, and it would be horrible if you got so far with the job application and then you failed at the interview stage. So do some research, get some help, get some tips, and practice really does make perfect. The more interviews you can attend, the more application forms you can complete, you get better. I'd like to thank you for your attention, for being nice and quiet while I was speaking, and if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to take questions. Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning. Buongiorno. That's what I tell you.
My question can be stupid, but
there's no stupid questions.
But I'd like to know if all people in Great Britain speak so clear as you and your colleagues.
Thank you so much, because sometimes when I say I'm Scottish, people think, oh God, and they have some difficulty in understanding. But there are so many different accents in England and Scotland, and Scotland is a small country. We have a population of about 5 million, and no, the short answer is no. You will find your ear gets attuned. You do learn to understand, and it's always more difficult when you're on the telephone, you know, because you can't see the mouth, you can't see the expressions, so that's a further difficulty for you. But thank you for the compliment, very kind.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay.
The format of CV using Europass site is not okay for...
No. Europass is fine for applying for Italian jobs or jobs in France or Spain. The UK is a little bit strange. We don't like it. We do not like it.
Scusate se parlo in italiano. Buongiorno, sono Carlo Sinisi dell'Eures Puglia. Volevo aggiungere una cosa a questo riguardo. Siccome il discorso per cui il CV Europass nei paesi anglosassoni non va tanto bene, già da tempo io ho notato che su YouTube c'è una rubrica che si chiama Italians in fuga di Aldo Mencaraglia, che ha messo su 3 video in cui vi fa vedere esattamente un CV Europass che arriva dall'Italia da una sua amica e poi lui lo trasforma in un CV, diciamo, possibile per il mondo anglosassone, perché questa è diventata una discriminante molto forte, tant'è vero che ieri che abbiamo raccolto dei curricula vari, alla fine dei conti tra la forma e la sostanza ne sono rimasti pochissimi da valutare, perché purtroppo, a differenza forse nostra, anche una forma sbagliata è motivo di esclusione. Un CV di 7 pagine oppure un CV in cui la prima pagina non è altro che una foto intera del candidato, purtroppo per quando si ragiona nel mondo anglosassone bisogna anche pensare questo, bisogna essere sintetici, pragmatici e cercare di creare anche sul vostro CV quelli che adesso nel mondo virtuale si chiamano le hashtag, cioè dovete fare in modo che vengano subito all'occhio di chi legge le vostre competenze, le vostre caratteristiche in una pagina, massimo 2. Scusate l'italiano,
Okay, I'm going to add something. I couldn't understand everything, but I understand there's something with YouTube is going to send. What I said I would do is send some links for websites that help you form a CV for the UK market. And Carlo will then upload it to the Eures Puglia site. So it's something that you can, there's help there, there's a lot of help, and you don't need to pay any money. You know, these are free websites, they have templates, and you can formulate your CV that's going to be acceptable for the UK market. Okay?
Volevo dirvi a tal proposito che io, soprattutto gli ingegneri, quando stiamo dando la comunicazione, in effetti we have asked the Europass CV, but that's why, because this is the European format. I mean, to some of you I have already given some little tips on things which were wrong or not, but I wasn't really in the position to make corrections on all the CVs that I received. At least for the moment being, I mean, it's the European format we accept. Of course, then it must be adapted to each single European market. In this case, the UK market is really, labour market is really specific, particular. Okay? But it was important for me to see on your CV if you had a master's degree, to know your language skills, and that comes out just with the Europass format. Okay?
Can I add something? Can I add something as well? With the Europass CV, if you're uploading it online, because of the way it's set out, that could be a reason why it's being rejected. It's not so much that we are anti the Europass CV, It's just 85% of applications are online, and that does not meet the UK standard. One other point about the Europass CV, personally, I don't like it. I think there's a lot of entries that don't really tell you anything. And when you're talking about language skills, the Europass CV uses the A1 to C2 range. Employers don't understand what that is. It's much better to say, I'm fluent in English, or I have a good command of the English language, written and spoken. Something that we call plain English. Something that, regardless of where you're from, I know what your level of English is. C1, C2 means nothing, absolutely nothing. So this is something else that I don't like the Europass for, okay? And it doesn't follow the format that I have just mentioned here.
If we reach the interview phase with an employer, they ever will ask us for official documents for stating that we have a degree in such matters, or another achievement we have reached during our life.
Yes, of course, they will ask you
so
for
we
your
have
degrees.
to bring them from
you, before your interview, you will ask. There's nothing wrong with it. What do you want me to bring to the interview? Do you want me to bring my certificates of education or whatever? So ask before you do anything like that. If you are sending anything, I would send a copy. I would keep the originals. I would be worried about sending an original document through the post, just in case.
Just something, I could add something just to you, explaining the reason why about the passport, the European passport language skills.
Yes.
That's for us it's becoming more and more popular, even at school, in high schools, with particular programs. Students do these courses and then they enroll for the formal exam. For example, first certificate, advanced with Cambridge and so on. So for example, I had really big problems in a recruiting session because those people who had submitted their CVs and with the language skills, they were just saying fluent, excellent. I mean, I think that it's very subjective, and sometimes people are not tend to lie, not to be really honest. So for us, it's becoming more and more as a point of reference, in the sense that if one says I am B2, of course it's better if it's not just self-assessed, but it's certified by means of a formal English test, such as the first certificate, whatever. And it's really becoming, in Italy at least, a point of reference. I mean, the C1, C2, C whatever. But I know that the employers are not familiar with this classification.
Oh, can I respond to that? I understand why that would be important in Italy, because your first language is Italian. So if you have a candidate saying, I can speak English, you might not have a way of testing that. So your way of testing is you have the certificate, the Cambridge, whatever certificate, and the C1, B1, B2. In the United Kingdom, it's not important that you have a certificate for English. In fact, the employer won't look at it. The employer will test your English by talking to you. That is our test. Because the other thing that's very important, I could have got my certificate for English 10 years ago. Does it mean the same thing now? No. Because if I am not using the language, then I will lose the language. So that is why I can understand the importance for Italy, for France, for Spain, for another country, that English is not the spoken language. But for the UK, where we speak English, some better than others, then the employer is able to test the language, because we would know by speaking. I can tell someone's level after 5 minutes, just by speaking. Okay, any other questions? And then there's okay, man at the back.
Well, if I get an Italian degree from an Italian university, how can I know what's the equivalent degree in UK?
Okay, we have something called NARIC, and again on the handouts there is a website. My advice, especially when you're applying for engineers jobs, is to let the employer know what the equivalent of your degree from Italy is. So, for example, you went to the University of Bari and you studied mechanical engineering, you have your masters, you have your bachelors. Say, I have Bachelor of Engineering or a master's, and then if the employer needs a translation or needs the equivalent, then you approach NARIC. Don't do it unless you need to, because you have to pay a fee. And with more and more employers recruiting from Europe, sometimes it's not necessary. Okay?
Just let me add that this European network exists in all European countries. CIMEA and NARIC, we have an Italian network as well. Here we had a seminar with the coordinator of this agency, of this network 2 years ago, Dr. Carlo Finocchietti. You can just find the CIMEA Italy, and then they will help you with all the problems concerning the equivalence of diplomas. And just for your knowledge, there is another document that a graduate gets nowadays. It's the so-called supplement diploma, which can be of great help because it just explains all your studies, all the exams you have undergone, and which can be slightly different from the same bachelor's, whatever master's degree in the United Kingdom. And with these documents, the graduation and the supplement diploma, you can address CIMEA in Italy in this case, or in England, it depends, and ask for equivalence and whatever.
Mi collego a quello che diceva Bernadette. Can I speak Italian, please? Perché ci sono stati dei casi reali, in quanto ultimamente abbiamo fatto il reclutamento di medici e infermieri per il Regno Unito, coordinato dalla collega Deida della Sardegna, e quindi abbiamo avuto modo anche di verificare sul campo il problema delle equivalenze e delle equipollenze dei titoli. Allora, naturalmente in Italia, se usate Google, quindi se usate internet, scrivete NARIC Italia e vi uscirà il sito internet del CIMEA, che è l'ente che ha vinto il bando per questa rete europea, che si chiama NARIC, CIMEA Cluj, che ha un ufficio a Roma, e sono anche molto bravi, nel senso che se mi mandate delle questioni per email rispondono sempre. Però diciamo loro hanno più che altro il compito contrario, cioè quello di aiutare gli stranieri che vengono in Italia a rendere validi i loro titoli di studio. Però vi possono dire poi le procedure per contattare il NARIC UK, che è quello che effettivamente vi potrà aiutare nel momento in cui andate nel Regno Unito a fare appunto l'operazione inversa, cioè voi arrivando, nel caso in cui sia richiesto o dal datore del lavoro o da qualche albo professionale, perché per esempio gli infermieri si devono iscrivere all'albo professionale inglese e quindi è necessaria l'equivalenza barra equipollenza del loro titolo lì. E quindi poi spesso ci può essere anche una procedura, che il NARIC lo dice sempre, non è detto che il vostro titolo sia immediatamente valido in UK, può darsi che vi chiedano un'integrazione, cioè di fare degli esami universitari o degli esami professionali per renderlo compatibile col sistema di studio inglese. Comunque diciamo un grandissimo aiuto vi può dare il fatto già di aver sentito la parola NARIC e internet, perché alle volte è proprio una mancanza di conoscenza dell'esistenza di questi network che in realtà sono molto efficienti. Grazie.
Thank you, Carlo. I understood everything. Does anyone have any more questions? Okay. There's two gentlemen here. Who goes first?
Okay. I would like to know the main steps before to get a job about the documents, the national card insurance, the bank number card.
Okay, I can answer them. The national insurance number is not a difficult process. On the handout, let me find the correct handout. Living and working in the UK, it tells you the telephone number. You cannot apply for the national insurance number before you have arrived in the UK. You should have either an offer of a job or you're starting work and then you apply for the number. You go for an interview, you have to have proof of who you are and where you're living. Very, very easy. And you would take the letter from the offer of the job from the employer. It depends on which part of the country you would be living. London normally takes a little bit longer, but for example in Scotland, I'll speak about Scotland because I know Scotland, it can be as quick as 2 weeks, the whole process. So it's nothing to worry about, but if you were in the UK, or you're in the UK and you have any doubts or problems, then you can contact a Eures advisor. We're on the Eures website with our telephone numbers, our email address, and you can contact us for advice. Okay, and the bank account is similar. You need to have proof of where you're living, but you could have a letter from the employer, and the employer could state, I am employing Giovanni as an electronics engineer and he is living at giving your address. Because sometimes the banks look for a bill, whether it's a water bill, gas bill, and if you haven't been in the country long enough, then you won't have that. But all UK salaries are paid into a bank. You will not be paid cash in hand. You're normally paid monthly, and we don't have any extra salaries. It would be 12 months in the year, you get 12 monthly salaries. Okay? Sir?
I'd like to ask you a question. I'm an engineer, and actually I'm working as a project manager. So I would like to ask you how much is important to get a similar job in the UK with my, such as my actual job, to have qualifications such as PMP or Prince 2.
What was the qualification you mentioned?
Prince 2. I've been reading around over the internet that is a kind of qualification that looks like it's really useful for project managers.
Okay, I need to remind you all that I'm not an engineer, and I have a knowledge of the engineering recruitment, but I don't have an in-depth knowledge like that. On one of the website, on one of the handouts, let me find it again. This one here, it talks about the Engineering Council. I think if you have any questions, then go onto this website. It should give you some hints and useful information. I think what is more important if you're looking for the job as the project manager, etc., is your work experience. If you can show that you have the experience that will enable you to go into a new job with a minimum amount of training and a minimum amount of getting used to things. That's why the employers, especially in the oil and gas industry, where there is a huge shortage. In fact, we have the 11 employers in Scotland at the moment from the oil and gas industry who are wanting to do recruitment projects abroad. So that there is a need, but they want experience. With the United Kingdom, with Job Centre Plus, it is against the law to say I'm looking for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years experience. They're not allowed to put that because it is seen as discrimination. However, in reality, if you do not have the necessary experience, the employers will not be interested. So what I have to do is try and speak to the employers and say, okay, you have your job, realistically, what are you looking for? How many, what is the minimum amount of experience that you will accept? And in some cases, you know, we were speaking to employers, 5 years, 6 years, and we've managed to bring them down and say, look, be realistic, you have the shortage. If you recruit from Europe, you don't need a work permit, it's an easier process than recruiting from outside Europe, and in some cases we've brought them down to 2 and 3 years. It depends on the job. Okay? Okay? Good morning.
Just a question. If in England is there something equal to our Ordine degli Ingegneri, and if we in UK we can design structures and make commissioning with our 5-year academic degree?
There's the Engineering Council, which I mentioned to this gentleman. Details are on here. Okay? Anything? Oh, one last, and then so I'll get you next.
What are your suggestions if we would like to make a career in the research or education field, like university or in a district like Cambridge or Oxford, where are strong universities?
If you know the university that you're thinking about, every university in the United Kingdom has its own websites and has its own research jobs advertised on the university websites. So you can do a number of things. You can get a list of all of the universities in Britain, United Kingdom, and go onto each website to see where the research jobs are. The other possibility of finding research jobs is the Prospects website. That's a good website for looking for research and educational jobs. The young lady with the glasses, hi.
What's happening if the employer wanted to use Skype for an interview, or can we say to the employer to use the Skype or other kind of...
Did you use Skype? It's becoming more and more. It's becoming more and more popular because the bottom line for the employer is they're a profit-making organisation, so they want to hire the right people in the shortest amount of time and costing them the least amount of money. And this is why more and more are coming through Eures, because we do things professionally, but we don't charge a fee. Anyone else? Take the microphone. Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Allora, vi ringraziamo per la vostra partecipazione. Siccome questo è l'inizio di un nuovo programma di Eures, dove sono contenuti tutta una serie di nuovi incontri, magari ve ne anticipo un po'. Allora, innanzitutto grazie all'impegno di Bernadette Greco, che finalmente ha dotato Lecce di un servizio Eures veramente all'altezza. Diciamo, dalla decisione di novembre 2012 Eures cambia, diventa più potente, si occuperà di più cose, probabilmente si occuperà anche dei Leonardo, degli Erasmus e così via. Diciamo, però queste sono tutte cose a venire. Probabilmente ci sarà l'integrazione in Eures anche di soggetti diversi dalla pubblica amministrazione, ci saranno dei bandi in cui potranno partecipare probabilmente anche dei soggetti privati accreditati, però ancora questo è molto futuro. La cosa concreta è questa: la Commissione europea ha individuato Eures per essere lo strumento principale della strategia 2020, quindi tutta la strategia che si occuperà di giovani, lavoro e crescita economica. Per questa ragione ha incominciato a chiedere ad Eures che gli operatori Eures, nel nostro caso stranieri, venissero in Italia direttamente per degli eventi. Questo è il primo, grazie alla collaborazione in un progetto con Eures UK. I prossimi sono molto vicini. Per esempio, se già andate su Click Lavoro troverete già le date di Roma, Napoli e Milano per quanto riguarda un grosso reclutamento Italia-Germania, già con tutti i profili descritti, con i numeri, e lo stesso reclutamento avverrà anche in Puglia, quindi io vi do in totale anteprima le date della Puglia. Questo reclutamento sarà il 12 e 13 marzo a Bari e il 14 e 15 marzo a Lecce. Ci sono moltissimi profili, non solo profili tecnici, anche se non lo scrivono, però io lo do già per presupposto, insomma mi affido ai miei 19 anni di esperienza. Per lavorare in Germania comunque è richiesta una base di tedesco, loro dicono che per alcuni profili non c'è, diamolo per vero, però io so che per lavorare in Germania bisogna avere almeno un B1 o B2 di tedesco, però appunto nella declaratoria di tutti i profili ci sono anche dei profili che accettano solamente l'inglese, quindi diamo per buono quello che dicono ufficialmente. Sono in realtà non dei, secondo quello che ho letto, in realtà sono degli stagi iniziali, non sono dei veri e propri contratti di lavoro, però è un'opportunità da non perdere, perché il Ministero del Lavoro italiano con quello tedesco hanno stipulato un accordo che prevede anche dei benefit che verranno poi illustrati a coloro i quali verranno preselezionati da Eures Puglia e da Eures Lecce per partecipare agli incontri. Quindi prima ancora degli incontri ci sarà una fase di preselezione che per la Puglia dovrebbe terminare dal 4 al 6 di marzo. Quindi noi dal 4 al 6 di marzo valuteremo le candidature e quindi inviteremo le persone per la selezione finale che avverrà 12 e 13, 14 e 15. Tutta la fase di candidatura e tutta la fase di contatto avverrà necessariamente per scelta del Ministero attraverso il sito Click Lavoro. Quindi sia la lettura dell'evento, sia la lettura dei particolari, ma anche la candidatura per il profilo che avete ritenuto idoneo a voi, avverrà tutto attraverso il portale Click Lavoro. E noi stessi poi a nostra volta le preselezioni le faremo attraverso ciò che ci arriva attraverso Click Lavoro. Siccome è una procedura sperimentale, visto che ci sono già attive le date di Roma, Napoli e Milano, cominciate a prendere confidenza con la procedura, magari candidatevi per Napoli o per Roma o per Milano, cominciate a registrarvi su Click Lavoro, che è una fase molto importante propedeutica poi a partecipare alle selezioni, e soprattutto andate a leggere profilo per profilo sia i requisiti e sia le condizioni offerte, e cominciate a vedere che i profili ce ne sono parecchi su più settori. Il 1° marzo a Bari faremo la seconda edizione di lavoro e turismo, quindi per coloro i quali sono interessati a un reclutamento nel settore turistico, a Bari il 1° marzo ci sarà la seconda edizione di questo evento, sempre un evento Eures, dove in una sola giornata presso una location cittadina ci sarà la possibilità di avere un reclutamento diretto con le aziende. Infine, e questo è un follow up all'incontro di oggi, il 5 giugno è già previsto presso il Politecnico di Bari il job meeting. Quindi avete la possibilità il 5 giugno di venire a Bari, dove troverete di nuovo i colleghi dell'Eures UK e probabilmente ci saranno anche delle aziende che faranno il reclutamento nel settore tecnico. Il job meeting copre più aziende, non solo, diciamo, i profili non solo per ingegneri o per profili precisi, però diciamo, la tematica del job meeting a Bari sarà quello del lavoro nel settore tecnico, settore tecnologico. Grazie.
Aggiungo
pratico rispetto a quello che ha detto Carlo, che per quanto riguarda questo nuovo progetto che riguarda Italia e Germania chiamato The Job of My Life, di cui potete trovare già informazioni sul portale Vedi Lavoro. Pubblicheremo tutto, date, selezioni e soprattutto settori in cui viene fatto il reclutamento su Puglia Impiego. Adesso i miei colleghi mi chiedono, abbiamo tempo per tutte le domande che volete prima che ci sia la sessione proprio delle interviste, e il collega Sam is going just to show you some of these websites, so just take this opportunity and make all the questions you can. Okay?
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I will try to find the websites, and these are websites that have been passed on to me by various advisors in the job centres where I work, so this is not to do with Eures or with the Job Centre Plus. It's simply websites that are absolutely free and will give you a better idea how to write your CV. One of them, which I use and is quite popular, it's got a funny name, it's called Get Me a Cool Job. So if you follow what I'm doing, and it's already there, we can see that on Google. It's quite a big website, and it will tell you, first of all, how to write a CV. The British style CV, again, we repeat, the Europass CV will not be very much looked at if you apply for jobs in the UK. You can see how to write a spec letter, how to write targeted CV. As Celia mentioned before, if you write one CV and send to 100 or 500 jobs, the likelihood of you getting a job will be very small. So here you will find CVs for, let's say, mechanical engineers, for social workers, for anything. The same would apply for spec letters, the letters which will accompany your CV. And also what's very important, you will find the answers to those famous questions that you might be asked in interviews. So don't forget, the people who are going to interview are also going to be under certain stress. Most of them are not qualified HR people, but that's somebody who's been appointed by the company to do recruitment. I did lots of recruitment in the past on behalf of Job Centre Plus, and I used to be running a business, and it is very, very time consuming. So if you want to get a job, when you get to the stage of coming to the interview, you need to prepare for that job. And that means you have to research the interview before by learning about the company and looking at all the questions that you may find on this website. Are there any questions relating to this, please? The other one which Celia mentioned earlier, which will help you for your job search, is the website called Prospects. I will try to find that, because you will find useful information about what you need to do in order to become an engineer in the UK, for example. I think there's some coming up here. I'm not sure if this is responding now, but basically this is the website that you should be looking at. It will give you a basic idea about what to do. So that's one of the prospects. There are a few of them with the same name, so you just have to research which one will be most suitable for you. Okay? Again, any more questions that we can come across as we are talking to?
Yeah, question over here?
Yeah, go on, sir.
Hello, mine is a general question. At the moment, I'm not employed. So I was thinking, what do you think about move to UK and look for a job there? Would it help, or it would be just a waste of money?
What type of job would you like to find?
I'm a civil engineer. What's the start of job?
Okay, for just a few sentences that I exchanged with you here, I think, in my opinion, if you want to be a civil engineer, you would need to improve your English, because don't forget, you're going to work with people from top echelon of the professions, and not everybody is going to speak so slow as Celia and I, because we do have experience of doing presentation with people whose native language is not English. What would you do? How would you live? Because you will not get benefit in the UK when you start. You have to think about having the capital before you get to the UK. If you are claiming benefit here, then unemployment benefit in Italy?
Sorry?
Are you claiming unemployment benefits in Italy?
Yes.
I don't know if you know about the rule. You can export Italian benefit to the UK, but only contribution-based job seekers allowance for up to 3 months. And the process is quite complicated. Yeah. Maybe you should start with a job which will give you better prospects just to improve your English before you apply for your desired job as a civil engineer. Employers would like to have people who are already at work. One of the questions, if you have been unemployed for a while, will be, what have you been doing all this time? So I always advise people, and I do advise British job seekers, and on the motivation sessions, diversify or die. The longer you become unemployed, the harder it will be for you to find employment, and that's a golden rule. So if you're not getting anywhere with your job search at present, you have to change something. If you're not getting interviews, then possibly your CV is not very good. If you're getting interviews, then you should change something in your interview technique. Anything else that we could possibly tell you?
Hello, can I just add to your question? I mentioned in my presentation that the process for recruiting engineers can be quite lengthy. So as Sam said, you need to have the money in order to be able to live in the United Kingdom. The unemployment benefit, the exporting and importing, the decision lies with your unemployment office in Lecce or Vedi, whatever, your local office. They can make the decision. And it can be a useful way if you can take your benefit with you to another country. It gives you some time to look for the job, to find the area that you're interested in, etc. But not everyone can do that. There are rules and regulations, and 3 months is the maximum that you can do this for. Okay?
Tutte le notizie riguardanti questo export di cui parlava la collega sugli ambientali di disoccupazione trovate sul portale La tua Europa.
Now we can see there is another question. Yes?
I really like writing computer programs and developing websites.
Yeah.
And I'm finishing my high school studies. So what study course would you suggest me to follow to get a job as a computer scientist or as a computer engineer in Great Britain?
I just have a second ago, there was obviously you can see that, there was a website called the prospects.ac. Do you have any software that you can follow, that you can read basically, not read, but hear? Is that something?
Yes.
Right. Okay, so prospects will be the best for people with, who are graduates, so those who are highly educated, they will tell you exactly what you need to become what you want to be. So, if you want to be a doctor, they will tell you exactly what qualification you will need to be a doctor. If you want to be an IT specialist, and there are quite a few different IT specialists, on the prospects website you will find. I just have to tell you that in the UK we have 22,700 job titles, and the things, the requirements for the jobs are changing, and this is our role, is actually to tell you where to go and to look for the requirements of a certain job. So in your case, I would certainly try to go to prospects.ac.uk, and the address of that should be in the heads out if someone can read for you that. Okay, are there any more questions? There is another website that, from my experience, I would advise you to visit, and especially for engineers. And this is called REC. That is the website which is on your handout here, somewhere in the middle. REC is Recruitment and Employment Confederation, which means that all big recruitment agencies come together and advertise on one website hundreds of thousands of jobs, literally. And you will find minimum of 100 to 150 agencies that will advertise jobs for engineers. So absolutely go on that website and try to locate your desired job.
Okay, I'm going to add something. You all know by this time that I'm Scottish, and I promote Scotland wherever I can. In fact, the Scottish government say it's the best small country in the world. I don't know, for me it is. Anyway, because with our demographics, we are a small country but we have a small population, and we welcome people coming from other countries. At the moment, there is a website called Talent Scotland. Talent Scotland, you can register, and they have jobs advertised for engineers, good jobs based in Scotland. So that's my plug for Scotland.
Yes, you can be Talent Scotland.
Have you got any site to advise me for working as an architect instead of an engineer?
Okay, what we do actually is we also have a handouts that we send you electronically. So if you come and see us later on, I'm going to give you our address of the Eures UK team. When you write to us and request a handout, we will send to you within the 10 working days. This is the website that I just mentioned earlier, the Recruitment and Employment Confederation, where you can find about, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of agencies, and they're all agencies that are endorsing the code of practice of a professional recruitment agency. So these are big boys who will not cheat and have fake jobs. That's what they say. If you just go to this homepage here and click I'm a job seeker, it will take you to this page. I know it's difficult to memorize, but it's quite easy to go around once you know. Then if you click on find an agency here, you will get the choice of job titles. And let's say that we have the lady who said that she would like to work as an architect. We click here, the same will be for engineers, or civil engineers, and then click search. Now we should come to the list of number of agencies who will advertise jobs for architects. And if you go down to the bottom of that page, it will tell you that there are 179 agencies advertising jobs for architects. Lots of these agencies will advertise jobs from one company. So let's say one company will advertise with, I don't know, 50 different agencies. I don't know if you know the mechanics of why agencies are doing this. They will get money from the employer to get you a job. There is a term called a headhunter as well. Those are agencies who are looking for high executives, and they get well paid to find good candidates for especially those high-profile companies. So this is one of the ways which works quite well. Remember this, REC, they're a good source of jobs for engineers and also for people who are of your profiles. Do you have any more questions?
What about non-European citizens?
Sorry, can you say again?
What about non-European citizens?
And what nationality?
I'm from Albania. I'm graduating here in Italy, but I'm Albanian citizen.
Right, for those people who are nationals on a non-European economic area, which would be 27 countries of European Union plus Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Norway and Iceland, you will need to have a work permit before you commence employment in United Kingdom. There is, in the handout here, it's called the UK Border Agencies, so that would be 1, 2, 3, 4th one from the top. If you click on that one, you will be able to get the link to works in working in the UK, and also then what you're looking is something which is called Tier 2 recruitment. But please do remember that before you commence employment, you need to have a work permit, which is sought by your potential employer. It does happen, and every year the government, this year as far as you know, is allowing 20,000 work permits for people who are coming from non-EEA country. If you have a high quality and a high profile education, which is needed in the UK, yeah, why not? I mean, for example, the most scientists now in Cambridge and Oxford are from the Republic of China. And, you know, they come outside European economic area, but because of their capacity, they get work permits fairly easily. Has that answered your question?
Yes.
Okay. Any more questions that we can have?
One more.
Just one more.
Yeah.
That one, yeah, top.
Yep.
We mentioned earlier that Scotland is a very good country for engineers, and we mentioned that Scotland has lower unemployment rate than the rest of the country. And this is a very good website where you may explore and see that's the place where we would like to see. If you think that, and we talk about different accents, Scotland is, in some parts of Glasgow, especially Celia Pappas are very difficult to understand, even for me. Also, if you intend to go to Northern Ireland, they've got very, very strong and thick accent.
If you look at below, these are the 4 areas that we're looking for people. life sciences, electronic technologies, financial services, and energy. Energy is huge, and we're looking at renewable energy more and more and more. There has recently been billions of pounds given to one of the islands of the north of Scotland, and they're looking at tidal energy. So there are more and more opportunities opening up all the time, as well as the oil and gas. We are really into renewable energy. So it's a good place to go. If you want to see the vacancies, or if you want to be notified of vacancies, then you register on this website. Free, completely free, there is no charge whatsoever. So it's just another way of keeping your options open, being aware of what is available and how easy it would be to move to Scotland. If you think the temperature in England is bad, it's even worse in Scotland. We tend to be a bit colder, the summers are not really summer, but we're a very friendly nation. We're very friendly and very open to receiving people from other countries.
Are there any more questions relating to what we are talking, or anything regarding the life in the UK? Okay, what we have here is a checklist of things that you need to do if you want to apply for a job. As a novice of applying for jobs in the UK, you will need to know the whole process in order what you actually need to do to apply. I know you're all here and we are bombarding you with the information. This checklist for graduates will exactly tell you what you need to do and to be well prepared for applying for a job, and especially, as I mentioned before, for interview, because all that work that you have invested in getting to the interview can go just like that. Do remember that it's not the best candidate who gets the job, it's the best person who performed on the day. When you go to the job interview, you have to be confident, you have to know about the company, and you have to be prepared for the questions that you may get. Some of the typical questions are, why would you like to work for this company? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? This all you may be asked. And if you are hesitant in answering to usually a panel of people, you will probably have a difficulty to get a job. It is very, very important that people from other countries, they usually get surprised with how many details are absolutely essential if you want to be successful. Remember that when you're writing CV, you try to write a CV which is called targeted CV. So read carefully the job advert and then try to match your experience with what's in the job advert. So if they're asking for, I don't know, years of experience working in construction industry and you've been working 10 years, do say. If they're asking somebody with a history of successful turnover in the business industry and you have been doing that, don't be afraid to put the figures. If you've done a turnover of 10, 15, 20 or more million euros, the more the better. Don't go over the top, because the employers are not daft. and they know exactly when people are not telling the truth. The fact is that a large proportion of candidates do make a little bit their CVs to look better by not putting the exact things. It is up to you which way you want to go. There is an art of writing CVs. In my experience, searching for a job is a full-time job. I would say 2 or 3 hours a day. Don't be disappointed if you get nowhere to start with, if you get rejections or get nothing, because nowadays employers get so many candidates, they just don't even bother replying to your email. Any questions relating to that or anything specific that you would like to know about the process of applying for a job or regarding life in the UK? Yes, sir.
Maybe.
Yeah, go on.
Thank you. I don't want to look like so direct, but I would like to ask you, what are the average wages for engineers in the UK or in
Celia has an answer to that.
when you are graduate after 5 years or 10 years?
Yeah, Celia will tell you right now.
Thank you.
I have the money. Okay. When you are newly qualified engineers can expect to earn between £20,000 and £25,000. That would be a normal salary for someone who has newly qualified. There are all different levels of salaries, and it tends to be, if you're working in the oil and petrochemicals industry, then the salaries are higher again. For an electronic engineer, the average is £32,500 per year. Mechanical engineer, £37,500. Civil engineer, £47,500. Chemical engineer, £42,500. Remember, these are average. They can be much, much higher. And also there can be different, what we call perks. If you are working for a big company and they send you around Europe, then they pay for your travel, they pay for your hotel, and they also give you a living away from home expenses, and your salary tends to be higher. All in all, engineering, there is a good level of living. You can live very nicely on the salaries that I have mentioned here. Okay?
You wanted to ask a question?
I wanted to say that I was in England already a few years ago in 2003, trying to get a job, and I think my main problem as an architect was to find the translation of my career as an architect and the job experience into the language of an architect in England. And you mentioned that site before, Norwich. Yeah.
Right. That's for you for your diploma.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, to show that your diploma is the equivalent of that qualification in the UK, but they don't actually translate your portfolio.
Yeah, because it's very difficult. They look for part 1, part 2 architects.
They do a comparison. Do you have experience as an architect?
Yes, now, yes. Of course, in 2003 I had less.
It was very difficult to get a job as an architect, and I know from personal experience because my niece qualified after many years. She studied at the Glasgow School of Art, very prestigious, very good qualifications. She came out top last year, and she could not get a job. She had a real difficulty. But the company that she did her practical year with in London offered her a job. So the reason I'm asking if you have experience is, it's easier if you have some practical experience. If you don't have experience, it is almost impossible for a newly qualified architect to find a job. I also know from personal experience, newly qualified building surveyors, impossible. business people from the UK. Because of the recession, the construction industry has taken a downward trend. So architecture, even civil engineering, if you don't have experience, is difficult.
Will the experience taken in Italy have any...
Yes, of course, yes, it does. If we have a need, and this is where we look at the shortage occupations, if we have a need and we cannot fill the jobs from UK job seekers, then yes, we will accept. Or if you have exceptional experience and the employer really wants to hire you, then yes, you can get a job. It is not easy. It is not easy. But as Sam had mentioned earlier, we can give you an email address and we will send you out some information, some websites, some help and some tips on that. Okay?
Are there any more questions that you may have? We do have a certain handouts that we don't carry with us. I only have a master copy. But if you're interested to get handouts relating to your engineering profession, you can come and talk to us for those who have booked time afterwards. And then we give you a slip with our Eures UK address. You write to us, and then we send you handouts by email. Anything, any more ideas, any more tips, or anything else that you would like to know? Use our time because we are here now, and who knows, again.
It's possible today study and work in United Kingdom. Is easy, or is this more difficult than?
What do you mean study? Study the language or just study the graduation program?
I will be honest with you. If you intend to study in the United Kingdom, again, Scotland is a little bit different. If you want to study in England and Wales, Northern Ireland, the cost of the scholarship per year is astonishing. It's up to £9,000. However, people who are intending to go to Scotland and they come from European Union, they may have free tuition, which is not free for people from England. It's a bit of a different thing. I'll be honest with you, it will be extremely, extremely difficult for you to study and work, because you will need to earn a lot of money to pay for tuition fees and for your upkeeping. You've seen earlier on the cost of apartments or rooms, plus food and the other commodities that you need to live. From my experience, students there only work weekends part-time to get some money for absolute necessities. Students in the UK are entitled to get a grant from the state, which they will repay back once they start earning more than 23,000 a year. So you don't pay any money back until you start earning 23,000. But if you're a graduate, if you intend to study, you expect to earn more than that. Although I have to say that nowadays I know of many graduates who are starting to do the jobs for 15,000 a year, because those who are experts in economy, in advertising, in finance are having huge difficulties to find a job. The market is flooded. And you know, because of the economic crisis, the banking business, which has absorbed these professions in the past, is not doing well. I was recently in Prague, in Czech Republic, and they laid 400 economists in one day in the banks in Prague. They all came to look for jobs in the UK, but I'm afraid that would be a very, very difficult But as an engineer, I think you probably have a better chances to get a job than as an economist. It all depends up to you. You make your own life. How much you will invest in yourself, in your language, in applying for jobs, that much reward you will get at the end. And Celia would like to add something as well.
I'm just going to add about Scotland again. When you looked at the Talent Scotland website, there is a page about studying in Scotland. The free tuition is only for undergraduate. So if you want to come to Scotland to do your Masters or your PhD, then like everyone else, you need to pay. However, for the undergraduate course, there is no tuition fees at all. It's also a little bit cheaper to live in Scotland, or the cost of living, the accommodation is cheaper. My son's girlfriend is from Lithuania, and she has just finished her 4-year degree in Aberdeen University, and she got that free. Of course, there is competition. So if you're applying for a university course, you're going to have to show that you have what it takes, that you're better than a lot of other people. But they do have so many places for international students. I know what Sam's saying, because they have the tuition fees in England and having to work, it would be quite difficult to live and work and study. However, most students in Scotland have some kind of part-time job, unless you're very, very rich and you have rich parents. If you're coming from a country outside of UK, there is no financial help. You can't get help with, for example, a student loan, because you won't have lived in the country long enough. I think you need to live 3 years, at least 3 years in the United Kingdom before you would qualify for any kind of student loan. Student loan would help you with living costs, but you would need to pay that back. Okay?
Well, if you have got any questions, then I'm going to pass on the microphone to Benedetto, who's going to tell you a few things.
Quindi, se non avete nessun'altra any more questions, I think that we are going to meet at 2 o'clock as scheduled for the face-to-face interviews with my colleagues. But should you have any questions, this is the right occasion to make these questions. So yes, we should have 1 hour break and then be here at 2 o'clock straight to start the interviews. The first hour is scheduled will leave space to the engineers coming from Taranto and Brindisi, and the second hour from 3 to 4 to those coming from Lecce. Yes, there's a special questionnaire just to have your feedback on the organization of the seminar. If you have tips, whatever, just write.
Yes.